Hi, everybody. It's Grandma, Mima, whatever you want to say. I'm here to talk to you about Advent. And here, hopefully, you can see the picture of the Advent wreath at church. What is Advent? Um, Advent is the time of preparation before Jesus' birth. Okay, and if we look in our Bible, it tells us all kinds of amazing things. So, what amazing things do you ask? Well, people like Zechariah and Elizabeth and Mary had spent their lives looking forward to the Messiah's coming. Remember, Advent is the time of preparation. So now suddenly these people know in a matter of days, Christ is coming. So, what is the season of Advent? In the 4 weeks before Christmas, it's about counting down the days to Christ coming because the word Advent means coming. To help your family count down the days before Christmas, lots of people buy an Advent calendar at a bookstore. And an Advent calendar has tiny doors, one to be open each day until Christmas. Ta-da! So, what we're going to do is we're going to read from Luke 1 and 2, and we're going to have a video Advent calendar. And I'm going to try and show you many, many things, okay? So, when we look at the Advent calendar, in the picture, it tells us it shows us rather, that there are 4 purple candles and 1 pink one, and then there's 1 white one. Okay? So on Sunday, the far right candle was lit. It's purple. Okay, then we'll do the next purple one. The third one will be the shepherd's candle. That one's pink. Okay, then we have the 4th purple one in the back. And then we have this beautiful white one. And when Advent's over, we'll light this white candle. This is the Christ candle. So I thought you should know that. But they're lots of fun. You and Mom and Dad can make one if you want. This one at church is a little bit different because these candles they have wicks, but you also fill them with oil so that they can be used over and over again. And all you change is the wick. Pretty cool, right? So anyway, let's get started. I'm going to read to you the first chapter of Luke. Maybe not even the first chapter, but part of it. And then I'm going to read you a cool Christmas story. It's more secular, but I think you'll enjoy it, okay? So, here we go. Wait 1. All right, so here we go. So let's talk about who Luke was. Luke was a doctor, all right? So what would you do if someone wrote a book just for you? That's what Luke did. He wrote this book about Jesus for a friend. Sometimes this friend is called Theophilus. That means friend of God. He was a friend who loved God. So Luke wrote another book for this friend. It's called Acts. It tells what Christians did after Jesus went back to heaven. Luke was a doctor, and he went to school to learn about medicine. Dr. Luke saw things other people didn't see. He takes us on adventures others would miss. At Christmas, we read about Jesus' birth. Matthew tells us all about the wise men, but Luke tells us about how Jesus was born. He tells us about the angels and the shepherds, too. In Luke, you'll meet one of the most important angels. You'll listen as he talks. You'll even hear a great angel choir. You'll go fishing with some men, and you'll catch so many fish in your boat, it almost sinks. You'll go to a funeral, but you'll watch the dead man get up and walk. You'll see the stable where Jesus was born. You'll see 2 men who died hundreds of years ago. You'll see Jesus rise up into heaven. So we're going to join Dr. Luke for part of this exciting adventure. So the first part says, an angel visits Zacharias. Dear friend who loves God, several accounts of Christ's life have already been written. They were records of the reports made by the early disciples and others who saw what happened. But I thought it would be good to check all these accounts. So I checked everything from first to last. And I decided to pass this summary on to you. This will reassure you that all you were taught is true. My story begins with a Jewish priest, Zacharias. He lived when Herod was king of Judea. Zacharias was a member of the Abijah division of the Temple Service Corps. His wife was named Elizabeth. She was, like himself, a member of the priest tribe of the Jews. She was a descendant of Aaron. Remember Aaron from Moses? Aaron is Moses' brother. Okay. Zacharias and Elizabeth were godly people. They were careful to obey all of God's laws in the spirit as well as in the letter. That means they did what it said exactly, plus they thought if it needed to be a specific way because that's the way they felt about it, they did that too. But they had no children, for Elizabeth was barren. That meant she couldn't have children. And now they were both very old. One day, Zacharias was going about his work in the temple. His division was on duty that week, and the honor fell to him by lot to enter the inner sanctuary. It was his job to burn incense before the Lord. Meanwhile, a great crowd stood outside in the temple court. They were praying as they always did while the incense was being burned. Zacharias was doing his work in the sanctuary. Suddenly, an angel was there with him. The angel stood to the right of the altar of incense. Zacharias was surprised and very afraid. But the angel said, "Don't be afraid, Zacharias, for I have come to tell you that God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to name him John. You will both have great joy and gladness at his birth, and many will rejoice with you. For he will be one of the Lord's great men. He must never touch wine or hard liquor, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even from his birth. He will bring many Jews back to the Lord his God. He will be a man of rugged spirit and power like Elijah, the prophet of old. And he will come before the Messiah. He will prepare the people for his coming. He will soften adults' hearts to become like little children's. He will change disobedient minds to the wisdom of faith." Zacharias said to the angel, "But this is impossible. I'm an old man now, and my wife is also well along in years." Then the angel said, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the very presence of God. It was he who sent me to you with this good news. And now, because you haven't believed me, you won't be able to talk until the child is born. For my words will surely come true at the proper time." Meanwhile, the crowds outside were waiting for Zacharias to come out. They wondered why he was taking so long. When he finally came out, he couldn't speak to them, but they saw from his motions that he must have seen a vision in the temple. He stayed on at the temple until his term of duty was over. Then he went back home. Soon after that, Elizabeth, his wife, became pregnant, and she didn't leave her house for 5 months. "How kind the Lord is," she exclaimed. "He has taken away my disgrace of having no children." So there we have the story out of the Bible for today. So Zacharias is like, "I'm an old man. We're not having any babies. My wife's old too." And Gabriel said, "You should believe me. I come and stand in the very presence of God. So guess what? Now you can't talk, silly man." And Elizabeth became pregnant, and that's where we'll leave it for today. Okay, so here's the book I'm going to read you. It's called Santa Who, and the author is Gail Gibbons. You'll see why I'm reading this one in a minute, because I want to read another book tomorrow, but you need to learn about this person today. And here behind me is our tree that you guys helped me set up. I'm so excited. So here we go. Santa Who by Gail Gibbons. Santa Claus. He looked so kind and jolly, but the legend of this famous gift giver began long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years before people thought of him as a round man dressed in his fur-trimmed suit. According to the Bible, there you go. Okay. According to the Bible, the first Christmas gifts were given about 2,000 years ago when 3 wise men saw a star shining brightly in the eastern sky. They believed it was a sign that a special child had been born. The wise men followed the star until it came to rest over a stable in the city of Bethlehem. There they offered the baby Jesus gifts of gold and sweet-smelling frankincense and myrrh. Gold for a great king, frankincense for a holy man, and myrrh for a miraculous healer. Jesus came to be called the Christ child, from Christos, a Greek word that means anointed or savior. And again, there's our three wise men, and there's the picture of the timeline. Okay? So here's the next picture. All right. The original Santa Claus is thought to have been St. Nicholas, who lived about 1700 years ago. He was the Catholic bishop of Myra in the land now called Turkey, and he was known for his love of children and his secret gifts to the poor. Over time, many stories were told about this great man. Some believed that he flew through the skies looking for people who needed his help. When surprise gifts were given at celebrations and festivals, people began to say that they were really from Nicholas. And here, in this picture right here, you can see they think he flies, right? And there he is giving gifts to the kiddos. Here he is again. All right. After he died on December 6th in the year 343, many people began to think of Nicholas as their special protector. Later, the Greek Orthodox Church made him a saint. December 6th became a special gift-giving holiday called the Feast of St. Nicholas. Nicholas was pictured riding a white horse, bearing gifts, and holding a sturdy crook in his hand. He was dressed in his bishop's clothes, a long red cape falling from his shoulders. In one story about St. Nicholas, a man had 3 daughters and no money to provide each a dowry, the gift a bride's family presents to the bride and groom when they marry. This was a terrible misfortune, but then St. Nicholas, the secret gift giver, dropped 3 bags of gold down their chimney. Soon all 3 daughters were happily married, and the legend began that gifts found on St. Nicholas Day had come down the chimney. So, now we know that's why he's wearing his red cape right here. He's wearing his bishop's clothes, his red cape, and there's his crook. All right, and then on this side, we have the girls and the chimney. So there we know. Now we know what's going on, right? Now we know why he comes down the chimney. All right, here we are. Next page. Okay. As time passed, the spirit of St. Nicholas, the gift giver, took on many forms. The Dutch word for saint is Sinter, and the shortened name for Nicholas is Klees. In Holland, children called the saint Sinterklaas. On the eve of December 6th, they would place their shoes or stockings by the fireplace along with carrots, sugar, or hay for St. Nicholas's donkey. The next morning the offerings would be gone and gifts would be left in their place. About 5 centuries ago, that's 500 years, some religious leaders declared that it was wrong to worship saints or celebrate their holidays. For them, December 6th was not a proper day for gift giving. Not everyone agreed, but that's when some people began exchanging gifts on Christmas, a name that comes from the Old English Christus Masse or Christ Mass. What happened here? Since the Bible doesn't give a birth date for Jesus, early religious leaders had chosen December 25th. That was around the time of the winter solstice, when festivals were held to mark the passing of winter and the coming of longer days and shorter nights. The festivals changed into the celebration of Jesus' birth. So here's the next set of pictures. Oh. Okay, I'm back again. I don't know, we had some technical difficulties. So here's the next picture. All right, and the other one. So let's keep going. In many countries, the Christ child himself was a symbol of Christmas giving. German children said it was Christkindl who brought them the gifts called Christ bundles. In Spain, he was called Niño Jesus. In France, Petit Noël. And in Italy, Gesù Bambino. In England, children received gifts from Father Christmas. The origins of this stern figure date back to ancient Rome, where a Roman god named Saturn was said to watch over the winter festivals. The Romans brought him to England long ago when it was part of the Roman Empire. As the winter festivals became celebrations of the birth of Christ, the image of Saturn slowly changed into that of Father Christmas. And here he is, Father Christmas. Okay, and here is the Christ child. In Northern Europe, little elves with long white whiskers were believed to be gift givers. In Sweden, they were called jultomar. In Denmark and Norway, they were called julnisser. On Christmas Eve, children put out bowls of rice pudding for the elves. Gifts always appeared by morning. So here are the elves. Okay. In Italy, there are many stories about an old woman named Befana who gave gifts at Christmas. In one, she got lost bringing gifts to the Christ child. Every year after that, she left gifts for other children, hoping she might find the Christ child at last. In Russia, the children believed that another old woman called Babushka left gifts because she felt so guilty for steering the wise men in the wrong direction on their trip to Bethlehem. And there is Befana and possibly Babushka. In 1624, the Dutch sent a fleet of ships to the New World of the Americas. The Dutch established a colony called New Amsterdam, and with them they brought their belief in Sinterklaas. Okay? England captured the Dutch city in 1664 and renamed it New York. The English children found Sinterklaas far more appealing than Father Christmas, so they began the custom of celebrating Christmas with a gift giver who looked more and more like Sinterklaas. So, here are the Dutch. They're sailing into the harbor that they're going to call New Amsterdam, and then the English are going to call New York. And here is Sinterklaas / Father Christmas. In 1809, Washington Irving, the famous author of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, published a humorous book called Knickerbocker's History of New York. His description of the way the Dutch celebrated St. Nicholas Day was particularly festive. He wrote of stockings hung at the chimney being miraculously filled by the good St. Nicholas, the great giver of gifts, especially to children. Washington Irving painted St. Nicholas as a pipe-smoking man who loved fun and rode across rooftops in a horse-drawn wagon piled with gifts. His book was read by many people, and it influenced their image of St. Nicholas. And here it is. So you can see the horse flying over the houses, and there's St. Nick in his wagon. Do you think a wagon could fly? One man who read Washington Irving's book was Clement Clark Moore. On Christmas Eve, 1822, he was leaving to buy the Christmas turkey when his children begged, "Bring us a Christmas surprise." As his sleigh streaked through the snowy streets, he had a wonderful idea. He would fulfill his children's wish with a poem about St. Nicholas. So there is Clement Clark Moore in his sleigh, going to the store, right, and to get the turkey. Okay, it stopped, so we have to stop it here. Hang on. All right, we lost power, so Clement Clark Moore getting the turkey and bringing his children a surprise. It's going to be a poem. That night, Clement Clark Moore gathered his children around and began reciting. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. And there he is. All right, he's reading to his kiddos. A Dutch handyman who worked for the Moore family was the inspiration for St. Nicholas. When the saint appeared in the poem, he was described as dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and as chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. Earlier pictures had shown St. Nicholas with only one reindeer. Clement Clark Moore gave him 8. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder, and Blitzen. The poem, called An Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas, was printed in a newspaper in 1823. In 1848, it was published as the text in an illustrated book. Many other versions followed, and by 1860, Clement Clark Moore's Christmas Surprise was one of the most famous poems ever written. So, here is the picture of Clement Clark Moore, St. Nicholas. And on this side is Clement Clark Moore, St. Nicholas with his 8 reindeer. Alright, so here's our next picture. Oops. Grandma's going to have to get better at figuring out where this goes. Okay. And then here's the one after it. Okay. So it says more and more people were celebrating the merriment of Christmas. Because of this, between 1836 and 1890, December 25th became a legal holiday in all the United States and its territories. The old Dutch name of Sinterklaas became Santa Claus. No one added more to the image of Santa Claus than a cartoonist named Thomas Nast. In 1863, he drew a picture of Santa Claus for Harper's Weekly magazine. Each year he drew Santa again, changing the details little by little. Maybe we need to look at this picture one more time. So here he is. All right, and there's his pictures. And you can see that they change over time. In 1886, Nast's image of Santa Claus had become that of the jolly round jolly man whom we're so familiar with today. Here it is. Okay. Thomas Nast was also the first illustrator to draw Santa in his workshop at the North Pole, where he was shown answering stacks of letters from children. So there's his latest one. There he is, behind his desk, smoking his pipe, and look at that stack of letters from all those girls and boys. As time went on, more and more characters joined in the Santa Claus legend. Elves are shown helping Santa make toys, and there is often a Mrs. Claus who is just as plump and jolly as her husband. There they are, Santa and the Missus. Okay. At Christmas time, Santa's everywhere. He stands on street corners ringing bells to collect money for the needy. He's found in stores and malls, listening as children read their Christmas lists. He appears on Christmas cards in movies, on wrapping paper, and in songs. Over the years, many cultures have added to our image of Santa Claus. What a jolly and joyous gift giver he has become. And there he is, saying ho, ho, ho. Normally at this point he would say, Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! And to all a good night. So I will wish you the end of this video, and I will bring you another one tomorrow. I love you. Sleep well. Good night.